All right, you just had a weird interaction with someone, and before you can even finish fully processing it, you have this impulse to text your friends, like three different people, asking them, okay, be honest, am I crazy or was this guy being rude or was my boss out of in the wrong or whatever it is? Because you're not actually asking for their opinion. What you're asking for is validation to feel not okay about an interaction because you generally cannot tell whether a comment was passive aggressive or whether you're being too sensitive. You have no idea. Was this person being dismissive or are you overreacting? And you're turning the interaction over and over again in your mind, and that not knowing of who's in the right feels unbearable to you. If you find yourself constantly polling your friends to decide whether your feelings are valid, this video is going to explain why you have that impulse and what's actually going on, because this is not about you being too sensitive or it's not even about you not trusting yourself. There's a very specific reason your internal alarm system cannot tell the difference between a small slight and an actual mistreatment. So we're going to talk about that in this video. And if you really want help learning to distinguish on your own between like what is you overreacting and what is actually a slight, I made a free guide for you with questions to help guide you through like this reality test of your own reaction. It's totally free. Link is in the description. Thank you for supporting this channel, and let's get into it. What's really happening is your nervous system is essentially calibrated wrong. And I know that term nervous system is incredibly overused nowadays because someone told ChatGPT about it, but it's actually really important. I try not to use it unless I have to, and I feel like I have to in this situation. So what it is essentially, in like the most layman terms I can give you, is a series of nerves that send signals to your body and your brain when it senses danger. And it uses past experiences to predict future danger. So your nervous system is your body's internal alarm system. And it's a very complicated system that weaves throughout your entire body. So I said your nervous system is calibrated wrong. What that means is when something feels off in an interaction to you, your body responds like there's a real emergency, like a huge fire. Even if you picked up on a really subtle shift, like their tone changed or they made a comment you didn't quite understand, or even if it's over text message, like they stopped texting you back or something, you start to feel this urgent need to figure out what is happening. Was that bad? Did I do something wrong? Am I safe? What does it mean? What do I need to do to be ready for what's coming? But that alarm is going off at the same intensity, whether someone actually attacked you or just forgot to text you back. So you literally cannot tell from your internal signals whether this is a minor thing that you don't really have to think about or worry about, or if it's something you should legitimately be concerned about, or if it's like a boundary violation and you need to do something about it. You cannot tell because everything terrifies you when it comes to social interactions, especially. And because you can't trust your own internal read on the situation, you learned at some point to outsource it. You run it by your friends because they feel like a more reliable detector than you do. So the next logical question is, why is your internal alarm so unreliable in the first place? It's actually pretty simple. The reason you can't trust your own read on situations is because you were taught not to. And if you grew up in an environment where your feelings were consistently minimized or maybe even outright punished in certain situations, you learned that your perception of reality was unreliable. So maybe you were told by either a parent or another important adult in your life, like a grandparent or an aunt or uncle or a teacher, that you're too sensitive. You have to be less sensitive. You have to let things go. That's not what happened. You're being dramatic. I was just joking. Why are you so upset? You need to learn to take a joke. Boys don't cry. Just deal with it. Your brother doesn't act this way. You should be more like him. Why are you overreacting? We need to stop now. We need to stop crying now. We need to move on now. Parents will say things that they don't think are a big deal in the moment because they're an adult, but to a child, their words are law. It's like edict. And you've taken that into adulthood. When a child hears that enough times, especially from people who were supposed to protect them, they start to internalize it. So you've started to self-gaslight. You've taken that voice of this important adult and you've internalized it and made it a part of your own brain to the point where you don't even recognize it anymore. It's just automatic for you to doubt your own experiences. So when something feels wrong, your first instinct is not to think that your feelings are valid and to conclude, oh, that person was being rude or that person was distracted and it has nothing to do with me. It's more like, I'm probably making this up. That's not actually what happened. And so you ask your friends because you need external confirmation that what you're seeing and feeling is actually real. And this gets even more complicated when your body is giving you signals that feel way too big for the situation. So if someone just said no to you, you feel like they smacked you in the face. That's obviously just one example. You may have a different trigger and someone else has the trigger of someone saying no to them. But it is a disproportionate physical reaction to what the person said or did. So like some other examples might be someone does something small, like cancels plans last minute or gives you a certain look, or maybe they forget to respond to a text. That's a big one for a lot of people. And now you're having a hard time thinking about anything else. This is really preoccupying you and you're confused because rationally you probably know, at least a part of you knows, that this is just a canceled plan. Like, why do I feel like I'm dying? Like, why does this feel such a big deal? So what's happening here is your body is reacting to every time in the past when something similar happened and you weren't safe. So when you were young and a very important adult got cold towards you, you felt like you lost your safety because you know instinctively as a child that that adult is keeping you safe. And when that adult dismissed you, you felt like you didn't matter. When that adult was unpredictable in some way, either emotionally or literally like not physically available, you had to stay hyper vigilant to survive and be really attuned to that person's needs instead of your own. So now you subconsciously treat every small rejection or dismissal as if it's that original threat. And your body follows suit. It is physically reacting to this perceived threat. The feeling is real and it's very intense, but it's not proportional to the situation. It's proportional to all the situations that came before it. And because the feeling is so huge, you think, if I'm feeling this strongly, I must be overreacting. So you check with your friends. But there's actually one more layer to this. The moment you start to feel hurt or angry, there's probably a voice in your head that immediately attacks you for it. It might say something like, you're being too much, or no one else would care about this. You need to care less. You're so needy. You're going to ruin this relationship if you make this a big deal because it's not a big deal. Just get over it. You're too sensitive to even live. Oh my God. That one was a big one for me. You're too sensitive to even live. I really felt that way. This is your inner critic. And it learned to speak to you in the same tone that the people who took care of you as a child did. So when you ask your friends, am I overreacting in this situation? You really are hoping that they'll tell you, no, what you've experienced was actually wrong and that was a violation. So you really want permission to feel what you're feeling. You're looking for someone to override that critic's voice that's telling you that you're wrong for being upset. So you're essentially asking, am I allowed to be hurt by this or am I the problem here? And for a lot of us, there's actually one more thing driving this pattern. If conflict feels inherently dangerous to you, asking, am I overreacting, is also a way of asking, can I afford to have this feeling? Because deep down, you believe that if you're too much, people will leave. And if you assert yourself, cause a conflict of any kind, you're going to be punished in some way, usually through abandonment. So checking in with your friends is a way to test, is this feeling safe to have, or do I need to make it go away to be okay by suppressing it? You're not actually asking if you're overreacting. You're asking, am I safe to feel this way or am I in danger of being abandoned? So yeah, that sucks. And I've been there. So what do you do instead? How do you deal with this? Your friends can't tell you how to feel. I think you know that. And honestly, asking them is keeping you a little stuck because every time you outsource this to someone else, you're confirming that you can't trust yourself. It's going to just perpetuate the problem you already have. So I want you to try this instead. The next time you want to ask someone if you're overreacting, I want you to pause, like just wait a beat before you actually send a text or call someone, and change the question in your head. I want you to ask yourself instead, what would I feel, what would I think, or what would I do if I trusted that my feelings were simply information? And you may be thinking, what does that even mean? I don't understand the words that you're saying right now. What you're asking right now is, are my feelings correct? Am I right to have these feelings? Is it safe to have these feelings? And you're going to someone you trust to help you answer those questions. And instead of asking about whether your feelings are morally correct to have or even safe enough to have, I want you to treat your feelings like data. They're not something that is meant to be judged. We're asking ourselves, what are my feelings telling me about what I need or what boundary just got crossed? You don't need to know if you are quote unquote right to be upset. You just need to notice that something feels off and then trust that it's worth paying attention to. Just start there. Just notice it, name it, and just don't judge it. You can decide what to do about it later, but this is the first step to stop letting people tell you whether you're allowed to feel it in the first place. And if this resonated with you, the free guide I mentioned earlier will walk you through how to reality test this without outsourcing your feelings. I think that could be really helpful. Again, it's totally free. And you should also watch this video next about why being misunderstood is actually a blessing in disguise, because I think a lot of us worry about being misunderstood because, like I said, it's become a survival tactic. They need to understand we're not dangerous. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I really appreciate it. Please consider subscribing and leaving a comment, and I will see you in the next one.